All right, I am going to call to order the February 18th Plan Commission meeting. First up is, I know there's not a roll call on here. We've sometimes done roll call. I don't know if that's a requirement or not. No? Oh, all right. Then we don't need to do that. All right, approval of minutes then is the first thing from January 21st. Someone like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
All right, any edits or changes to the agenda, or for the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? All right, those are approved. I do not have anything for public appearances on non-agenda items. So moving along to agenda review, anything you want to move around at all? All right.
We'll have a couple of items that were tabled at Ag and Rural, 5C and 5D.
Okay, when we get to those, then I can ask you to postpone those then. All right, so we'll just get started then right away. First up is an ADR for Lot 10 at Orchard Point related to B, which is a minor PDD modification request. I have Danny and Joseph here. If you guys want to speak to this, that would be great. It's been a while since we've talked about this, but I know we've talked about it in the past.
Good evening, everyone. Danny Afabli, Development Manager with JT Klein. And with me is Jolie with JLA Architects. And we're bringing back to you guys the Limestone Ridge project that's been in front of you guys a couple times. And do you guys want a quick background on it again, or should we just go right into questions and whatever works for you?
You want a quick background, maybe?
Yeah,
maybe a couple of new people.
Before I was even here, so.
Gotcha. So this project is located behind Hy-Vee and the Super Target in Orchard Point, and we've done a couple iterations of this project, and the most recent one that we brought to you guys was 133 units, and this one in front of you today is 135 units. And this project is split into two phases. The east phase is 111 units. The second phase is the west phase, and that's 24 units, and this project has already been submitted for WIDA housing tax credits, which means it's an affordable housing development. Roughly 75 to 80% of the building is reserved for people making between 30 and 60% of the area median income. The other will be market rate units. And as you can kind of see on the graph there, the affordable component that we submitted is that east building, the 4-story, that is 111 units.
I know we talked about this in council at one point as well. At that point, a few things that people really liked about the project is location to grocery, to pharmacy, to bus lines, to restaurants, retail, everything like that. Seemed like really a great spot for something like this.
Yeah.
Do you, Joel, you want to add anything at all?
I was just going to say the difference between this and the approved SIP is pretty minor.
Yeah.
When the GDP was approved, it was approved for 136 units, and then when the subsequent SIP went down to 133. And since then, in developing the design through CDs and their market analysis, they switched the unit mix a little bit. So you can see on the letter of intent, there's some more one-bedroom units. So the number of bedrooms in the project is the same, but the number of units has been increased from the previous SIP approval by 2, which is still 1 less than the GDP that was approved. Exterior-wise, it's the same with the exception of some balconies have shifted a little bit. So no materials have changed. The aesthetics are exactly the same. The shifting of the balconies to accommodate those unit shifts is the only thing that has happened. So.
Sonia, do you want to do a staff report?
Sure. Items 5A and 5B are related, although we'll need 2 separate motions on them. The ADR, Architectural Design Review, was approved last year, and is good for only 1 year. So the applicants need to seek reapproval since they won't be pulling building permits before that 1-year time period is up. So the ADR is a reapproval. And then relatedly, item B is for the minor PDD modification. As was explained, the SIP specifically limited the development to 133 units. They are now proposing 135, but there are no changes in the building footprint or the site plan, so no staff concerns identified there. And it is consistent with the overall GIP that was approved for the project. So the staff recommendation on both is for approval.
All right. Questions people have at all? Yeah.
What percentage are subsidized?
I believe it's right around 75 to 80% of the total units are subsidized.
One question I had is, you said, it's been a year since we did this approval, roughly. Are you planning to do it this year? Is it still contingent on some tax credits?
Yes, it's still contingent on receiving the WIDA tax credits. We're hoping we'll find that out between March and April of this year. We're feeling pretty good about this project. We've already authorized the construction drawings. They're actually pretty much complete at this point. So if everything goes well, we're hoping to break ground possibly late summer of this year.
And if you don't get those WIDA tax credits, is the project dead? Or are you just going to try again in another year? Don't know.
Right. That's something that we'll probably discuss internally to see if there's any other feasible ways. We've received some Dane County housing funding, so that we would possibly look into some creative solutions to see if there's a way to push it through. But as you know, the WIDA tax credits are a substantial amount of our financials.
Other questions? Seeing none. We got two different approvals. Ed?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree with staff that this is not a substantial change, so I would move approval of architectural and design review request.
With
Second.
two conditions?
Or there, yeah, with the two conditions as noted by staff.
And then I heard a second.
Second.
Second by Stephen. All right, then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed, nay? All right, that is approved. And then the second piece to that, the alteration to the PDD SIP zoning.
How much, just a quick question, Ed, before.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, Tom.
quick question, guys. What's are these all one bedroom? Did you say? They're not all
No, they're
one,
1, 2, and 3 bedroom units.
1, 2, and 3?
Correct.
Okay, can you give us an idea, and let's just go with the 2-bedroom, average price?
That's going to depend on which AMI it's set aside for. If, for example, these are all set by the county median income, and there's a rent max for a 50% 1-bedroom, that could be right around $800. A 2-bedroom could be around $1,000. These are, and then the 60% ones are a little bit higher than that. The 30% ones will be for a 1-bedroom, for example. I think the max is $565. So there's, each of the units is set aside for different AMIs.
Let's go back to that, what the mayor asked you, just for 1 second. If you don't get the grant or the tax credit, whatever, where's the project? You're going to talk internally, I understand. I guess I don't understand. If you don't get the tax credit, or you don't get that, the project is in limbo then? Is that what I'm hearing?
It would be something that we would need to reconsider. The tax credits are the majority of our financing, so there's other ways that, I mean, we've done projects before with WIDA bonds where there's a certain amount of units that are set aside for affordable. However, it's roughly 20% of the units compared to 80% of the units, so.
To a degree, that can be competitive too. It's pretty competitive out there, you know.
Right.
It can be. So if you don't get the tax credit, I'm assuming then the dirt is not going to be moved.
Until
at
we
this
figure.
point. Just,
Right, I mean, if we get the tax credits, we're going to continue on the timeline to break ground in summer. If we don't, then we got to figure out a new timeline.
okay, no, that's all.
Any other questions on the modification request? Is there anything else you wanted to add? I'm guessing not, but.
No.
Sonia, is there anything else you wanted to add? Okay. Seeing none. Ed?
I'll move approval of the, for minor alteration to the PDD SIP zoning.
And I'll second.
All right, seconded by Rich. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? All right, as approved as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, C and D, Ed, do you wanna, maybe before you move to postpone, kind of
Sure.
let us know what's going on here?
So we discussed this request at Ag and Rural, and the, as proposed, it still doesn't meet the criteria, and we think that it can meet the criteria. So the applicant is going to come back with a different plan. And we expect to probably see it at the March Ag and Rural meeting, so probably the March Plan Commission meeting also.
Let's see, I have Brett Scherfinski, who would like to register in opposition. I think he left. You're not, Brett, are you? No one's here, Brett, I didn't think so. But he registered in opposition and commented, preservation of agricultural life and original Fitchburg heritage is paramount. So he would, I think, agrees with Ag and Rural Affairs, not liking what's been in front of them so far. Sonia, did you want to add anything on this one?
Just a reminder, this is the rural CSM we've been considering on Adams Road in our southern portion of the city. And I think Ed maybe would have any other report from Ag and Rural, or maybe not, just that it was tabled.
Well, I think that the issue is to get it moved over to the east along the property line. That's the main thing. And then there may be some slight change in the configuration. It's probably going to be a little narrower and a little bit deeper to accommodate septic and that type of thing. But that's what we're anticipating we'll probably see next month.
Any other questions before we postpone? All right, Ed, do you want to make the motion?
Sure, I'll move to postpone items 5C and 5D.
Second then.
All right, all in favor of postponing, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? All right, then C and D are both postponed. Moving along to E, I do not see anything is up front. I don't know if applicant for the ADR for the gas stations. Oh, all right, welcome. You can come up now and you can fill out the form later. If you'd like to kind of tell us what you got going on, that'd be great, and welcome.
Of architectural review.
Yep. If you just want, when you get ready there, tell us your name for those watching at home.
Sure. Boyd Coleman with Struckrite, representing the owners of the property for the convenience store on County Trunk MM. So it's is everybody familiar with the size of the building and everything at this point? And as far as finishes are concerned, we're looking for a cultured stone finish with a ephes on the top, and then I'm just going to call it a red type of metal coping, and then also a paint stripe accenting it. The storefront window glazing and doors are just a brushed aluminum finish on them. So, other than that, is there any questions regarding the site for the people? So the plan is to remove the existing structure and construct this new building in its place, off to what would be the south side of the existing right now. And then demolish the other building. Stormwater has been taken a look at to create a basin on the north side to capture that before draining off into that. We still have things that are itemized on the, that planning wants us to make sure we get completed by the time we go for a permit. Part of that is access on the drive there, and addressing the water issues there, but also septic issues have to be addressed as far as how that is placed, and incorporating some holding tanks is part of that, so.
All right. There's nothing else. I'll have staff report. Is there anything else you want to add right now?
No, I guess if anybody has questions or anything as far as finishes or anything like that, I'd be more than happy to answer.
All right, yeah, we'll have staff do report and then open up for questions.
So on the agenda tonight is just the architectural design review. In October of last year, we did approve a conditional use permit for the gas station to be expanded. This property has been developed for quite some time with a gas station, and the existing zoning is business general, but the conditional use permit was required for the alterations to the site and the expanded store. All of that is to say the use is approved, and we're looking at the site and structural development at tonight's meeting. As applicant described, it would include the demolition of the existing building, moving the building south and expanding it, as well as the new architectural materials. The gas pumps and the canopy will remain in the same location. And I think the drive access points into and out of the site will generally remain in the same locations as well. Landscaping has been added on the south side of the site. We did get a call from the adjoining residents, the existing residential property there to the south. So some evergreens and screening were added as part of the application. I think the biggest piece of missing information, as the applicant noted, was information regarding the proposed well location and septic location. So that is addressed as a recommended condition of approval, that we see that and confirm that that's appropriate at the staff level. And they'd also need to get all of their county permits for well and septic in order to proceed with permits. And I did hear mention of a holding tank. I'll just note that holding tanks are prohibited, so it would have to be a mound or a conventional septic system, as well as the well. So the staff approval then is for approval with 8 conditions. A lot of them are standard, including erosion control stormwater management permits, a recorded stormwater maintenance agreement, driveway permits, and then a few revisions regarding the well and septic locations. And then finally, it's the applicant's responsibility to comply with fire department requirements, including adequate turning area for the city's largest fire truck.
All right. Questions people have? Do you want to hold up maybe the bricks and stuff so people can get a feel for what they look like? Questions at all anyone has? Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
I'm real familiar with the store on MM, and I guess I'm going to bring it to staff, just a question for the future, maybe. The store is in the city of Fitchburg. The roadway's in a county. This is, I believe, a county road. Have we looked at, and if this store gets busier on MM, lots of traffic coming from Oregon, a lot of traffic coming from Brooklyn, you can name it where it's coming from. It's still our police department that takes care of accidents, whatever happens out there. Can we look at, make sure there's adequate turn lane, or, you know, in reference to the store, has that been brought up, or is this not the right time? If you look at the future, I'm okay with that. It doesn't have to be right now. But to leave the traffic the way it is out there, I think we should do something to improve it, especially when they're, okay, if you're going southbound, you can make the turn. If you're going northbound, if you're going northbound, you can make the turn in, I get it. If you're going southbound, you could delay traffic, stop traffic, or they'd have to go around on the gravel. And I'm trying to avoid all that for the future. Is that?
Sure. Because the use is the same, that concern hadn't been raised. But if turn lanes were necessary on the county highway in the future, we would run that through the county and come back for review.
Your point, too, is well taken, that they're using the same traffic in and out. But if the store gets bigger, nicer, more traffic, more people, that's where I'm going with this. I know it's been there for quite a while. It goes back to a few families I can think of. That store's been there a long time, but just for the future, you know, something to look at.
Stephen, do you have a question?
Yeah, when this was brought to us in October, I think some of the concerns that we raised were around lighting, security cameras, kind of those types of security features, given that this is in somewhat of a remote area. Is any of that included in your architectural review?
We did address lighting. We have increased that, mostly on the building. As far as cameras, I know it's the intent of the owner. He didn't specifically tell me where he was mounting them. This is actually a while back, but that security cameras would be in place.
Sonia, do you want to speak to, is that typical in the ADR component, or?
Yep, lighting was reviewed, and if the Plan Commission wanted to ensure that security cameras would be installed, you can add that as a condition of approval.
Yeah, I would say so. Also, just curious, was it that the old building was end of life, or what is the rationale behind this new building and not adding on, or?
Well, needing more space. It's an old wood frame structure, and just trying to get something added onto it. You're just spending more money, and it's just because of the slope of the roofs and trying to get that space added on. I'm not sure if it's compliant with accessibility either at this point, so there's a lot of issues with that, and you're just better off reconstructing versus trying to redo it.
Further questions at all?
Can we add security cameras to that? I like your idea. I didn't think of it really, where that sits out there.
Where it sits is, yeah.
That's a good idea.
And I haven't gone through to, if the lighting plan was in here, I'm assuming staff has reviewed that and
Yes.
is comfortable with it? I'll move to approve ADR 2050 County Highway MM with the 8 conditions noted by staff plus 1 extra, ensuring that security cameras are in place on the property.
Is there a second? Seconded by Tom. All right. All right. Any further questions? All right.
Did you
Oh, yeah.
make a note about my traffic?
Yes, that'll be in the minutes, yep.
All right. Then all in favor of approving with the 9 conditions, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed, nay? All right. That is approved. Moving along to F. And we've got Michael here from Gold Leaf. If you'd like to come up and talk to us about this and what's going on here, that would be great.
Oh, yeah.
My name is Michael Marty. I work with Veerbicker. I'm the surveyor for Gold Leaf. We've been working for the past year, I would say, approximately with the city and Sonia, getting the Parkland vacated, and that's happened. And in order to continue moving forward with what the client wants to do, we need to convert the outlot to a lot by CSM so that we can have it be developable. And once that gets approved and recorded, we can proceed with working on the engineering design plans and the site plan submittal for the city to look at. So really, this is just I think a formality of getting the outlot converted to something that's developable by the client.
All right. Sonia, you want to do staff report?
Yes, so this is a land division application by certified survey map, but as the applicant described, we're not actually creating any new lots or changing the boundaries or reconfiguring anything. It's simply replatting the lot from an outlot to a lot because development may not occur on an outlot, so we need to replat it so that development plans can be brought forward. As a reminder, this is in the North Park plat, the Addison development, south of Lacey and west of Syene. And last year, the Plan Commission and the Council approved a resolution to vacate parkland that had been dedicated in that area, as the developer wished to pursue development of a pool that would serve the apartment community in that area. So the resolution to vacate parkland has been accomplished. This is the CSM to convert from outlot to lot, and then future approvals of the site plan would be handled administratively. It is zoned smart code, so the pool design would be handled at the staff level. And so the staff recommendation is for approval. There are 10 noted conditions of approval, and they really are all standard conditions. There are a few extra things in here regarding smart code. For example, condition number 8, the Article 3 plan amendment is required. The Article 3 plan is what identifies the different transects and uses that may occur in smart code, so that also is handled administratively. So no other major concerns identified.
All right, questions people have?
Move approval of CS 2335-20 with the 10 conditions as noted.
Second.
All right, seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. All right, that's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to G, certified survey request 233820. I don't have anything up here. Is someone here for the King James Way property? Oh, all right. Come on up. Yeah. Helps us. You just let us know who you are. Welcome. All right, what are you doing?
Hi, I'm Michelle Burse with Burse Surveying and Engineering, and I'm here to answer any questions you have. It's the old fire station site, subdividing it into 2 lots for future development.
All right. Sonia, you want to do staff report?
This is a certified survey map to create a new lot. This is at the corner of King James Way and KPEC, as mentioned, the former fire station building. The applicant is looking to subdivide or separate the fire station building and adjoining property into 1 lot and then create a new parcel just to the north. The area is currently zoned business general, so that is the current zoning district that would apply and govern any future development or uses on Lot 1. Nothing has been brought forward specifically at this time, but it is anticipated that it would be a commercial use compliant with that BG, business general zoning district. No major concerns were identified in the staff report. Some future work would be required for utilities as well as storm sewer. And the staff recommendation is for approval with 9 conditions. And they are all standard conditions outside of number 9, which references the existing parking lot. So you can see the parking lot that used to serve the fire station building crosses the new property line to the north. When Lot 1 is developed, it's the intent that this access point would change and that the parking lot encroachment on Lot 1 would be removed. So the intent of the CSM is not to approve that parking lot area by easement on the new lot. So instead, this note on the condition adds that that parking area would be removed upon development of Lot 1.
All right, thank you. Some of you maybe have heard that the county is actually going to buy the old fire station. And so this is really the people who bought it originally taking some of the undeveloped land on the north part of that. And I believe you own land that's adjacent to that.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's going to be part of a bigger piece that you own. It's not going to be just
Correct.
one little piece that's floating out there.
Correct.
Questions people might have?
Move approval of CS 2338-20 with 9 conditions as noted by staff.
Second. All right, seconded by Zach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, that's approved.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next we have H, I believe H, I, and J are all connected anyway. So I know you got a group of people here. If you want to add whoever you want to bring up with you, that'd be great.
I'm Ned Hoyt of Inventure Capital, and also managing member of 3101 SFH LLC, which now owns the juice plant and has commenced demolition. And I'm here with Jolie. We're here to give you the next level of detail, kind of unwrapping the onion of our proposed project at the juice plant, to seek SIP approval as well as architectural review and review of the CSM.
All right. Anything else you want to add for now, Joe?
I'll just say, I don't know if you can put the elevations or perspectives up, but this is substantially the same as what you saw at the GDP level. We gave you quite a bit of information there as far as the architecture. So now we've just refined it a bit, have some more, have some materials to share with you. But the architecture is the same. I'll just go through the materials here. Is it all right if I talk like this?
If you could use the microphone, then they'll be able to pick it up on the recording.
Do you want me to hold stuff up?
Thank you. See, the other one. Yeah.
There we go. All right. So I'll just go through the materials. Like I said before, the aesthetics and the breakdown of the materials and the way the building looks is the same as it was before. We just have a little, the next level of detail to share with you. So as you can see along Fish Hatchery Road there on the right, and then on the extended traceway, which is now going to be called
Bowman Drive?
Bowman Drive.
Is a later discussion?
The red material is the masonry, so the deeper, rich red, and it has some iron spotting in that will relate to some of the other materials, so that's quite nice, with some colored mortar to get that more contemporary monolithic feel. On the retail there, you see there's some masonry that's darker, and you'll see that down on the southern end as well. That's this darker masonry with some colored mortar, and that really works with that iron spotting that you see there, and the metal panel that will be that's pointed out on the elevations elsewhere on the vertical elements between the reddish brick and on the end elements. Like here in these locations. That would be the metal panel, a darker color right here. We also have an aluminum metal product. It's called longboard. It's pretty popular these days in contemporary architecture, but that has a wood grain appearance, and that's what you'd see there on the orangish, yellowish representation there, and on the elevations it's pointed out in detail where that's located. On the courtyard side, we do have, since we're using a lot of masonry on the more public faces along Fish Hatchery and on the new Bowman Drive, as we turn the corner around the less visible facades, we are switching to a fiber cement, not an LP side, but a fiber cement, which is a real high quality, stable material as well. That allows us to use more masonry on those more public facades as well. We do also have an accent metal panels that you'll see there in the whitish gray. Actually, that's fiber cement, I'm sorry. And those will be in this range. So we don't want to just have a monolithic color. We're going to break that up and use, if you can't tell from far away, these are three variations in that same color range to give it a little bit of modeling, a little bit of interest, a little subtle interest, so it's not just a monolithic color. Fiberglass windows for the majority, with the exception of at the storefronts and the entries, where we'll do traditional aluminum storefronts. On the base, as we go around, we do have a architectural block that you'll see a little bit on Fish Hatchery as the grade drops away. Yep, down there. And then as you go around the building, where the, yep, on the base there, gives that a nice base. And then where the rooftop plaza is, that's that first floor material as well. So high quality materials all around. Same architectural aesthetic, and I'll just open that up to questions on the design if you want.
Okay. If you want to talk about everything, we can, and just kind of go through it and then do staff report.
Sure.
I don't know if that's easier than doing one at a time, but kind of get it all the way in.
As Joe said, I don't think there's a lot to sort of talk about in terms of the actual sort of SIP. Some very small changes, a little bit in terms of the patio out the front. I think we got an extra parking space down below. I think we had to convert a couple of parking spaces to compact spaces because we had to have air intakes and things like that. So that level of detail, as we've done the detailed structural sort of designs, but fundamentally nothing has changed since we were here in January from a GIP sort of perspective.
We've refined the courtyard design.
The other elements really would just be the CSM. So we have submitted the CSM. We've had kind of review of it. We believe it incorporates everything that we've kind of committed to in terms of dedicating the land required to extend the road from the intersection sort of to the east and all the appropriate easements from a public utility perspective. Joe mentioned it earlier, but I'll sort of add it here. It did come up in conversation when we were talking with Andy Bowman and with various representatives of the city a couple of months ago that there was a potentiality about changing the name and giving some recognition to his family and their heritage kind of in the community. We explored that with Sonia kind of over time. And research kind of what the ordinances were and weren't in terms of whether we could change the road name to the east of the intersection. And it became apparent that it was something that the Plan Commission could consider and potentially sort of approve under the ordinances as I understand them. And so we put forward that it would be named Bowman Drive. In honor of the family. I was not able to reach sort of Andy, but I know that Aaron was able to reach out and speak to him, so.
I'll wait until the public.
Okay. And so I'm given to understand that he's supportive of the name, and we think it's appropriate in terms of recognizing that the majority of the land to the east there that this road will go through is land that was originally part of Bowman Farms. And so we're happy to recognize that. Otherwise, as far as we're aware, everything is kind of resolved on the CSM that's kind of required to be resolved in order for us to proceed to dedicate and then build that road to the east as part of our development.
So do you want to do a staff report before I open the public hearing?
So bigger picture comments, again, we're looking at a development that includes 157 market rate units, 10,000 square feet of commercial retail space. Some other metrics, the parking is proposed at 1.26 stalls per unit. That's a little bit less than our typical 2 stalls per unit, but we've discussed that at previous meetings through the PDD review, Plan Development District. This is a number that can be negotiated. And another metric there, 1.1 bicycle stalls per unit. The environmental corridor was discussed at previous meetings as well. There was proposed impervious surface and development of this parking area in an existing environmental corridor. We had to go through the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission as well as the DNR to amend that corridor so that the plans could proceed, and that was approved by both CARPC and the DNR. Some more big picture comments. Again, this is an environmentally contaminated site, blighted. This redevelopment is consistent with the corridor plans that we've seen put forth by Vanderwall and Associates, as well as the comprehensive plan. The PDD SIP, specific implementation plan, which we're looking at tonight, is consistent with the general implementation plan, which we've approved. And we're also looking at the certified survey map, which will dedicate the public roadway to extend Traceway Drive across Fish Hatchery Road to the east. And on the CSM, I'll bring up another map as we go through it, but it's dividing this original parcel outlined on the screen here with the dashed line into 2 separate lots. The development will be on 1 lot, and then this remaining acreage to the north of the new road extension will become an outlot. It's small and would be difficult for development, so it's an outlot at this time until further development occurs north, at which time the lot configuration could change. And then it does, as we mentioned, dedicate the land for the extension of the public road. We mentioned the changing of the street name. The land division ordinance generally requires that if a street goes in the same direction, except for small areas of curves, the name should remain the same, in a logical, orderly street naming pattern. However, when we looked at this more closely, it became pretty apparent that the plans and the topography of the east side of the road would limit that same east-west orientation of Traceway, and it's very likely that it will take a sharp turn and instead head north and south in direction. So in staff's opinion, it's still consistent with the intent of the land division ordinance. And then we have heard from developers in the past that there was some interest in sort of rebranding the area if substantial redevelopment was to occur, and the revitalization of that area, a name change would seem appropriate. Eventually, it could be something that extends on the west side of Fish Hatchery Road as well. But the chosen name, Bowman Drive, gives a nod to, of course, the local history and the geographic place name of the area. So these are just some images from various plans that we've looked at from the Vanderwall corridor planning, and you can see that Traceway, as it crosses Fish Hatch, really takes that northerly direction on all, and this is the one from 2004. So on all of these plans, it really extends that north-south, whereas in the last image here on the bottom, Greenway Cross and Post Road clearly extend east-west. So that's the CSM, and the ADR we covered. So I'll just go through the staff recommendations, and then we can go through questions as needed. The first item was the specific implementation plan, and that's the separate ordinance included in your packet. The staff recommendation is for approval with 11 conditions. Number 11 is really long. That just incorporates all of the conditions that the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission required to make sure that we're following their approval there. And then I did want to make one change. It's really minor, just regarding the deadline for one of the requirements. So that's condition number 5, the stormwater maintenance agreement. We currently, as it's drafted in your packets, asked for that recorded agreement prior to issuance of permits. After discussions with the applicant and our Public Works Department, we'll just change that to within 30 days of city signing of the CSM. Again, rather than prior to permits. The purpose there is just to align the approval and the submittal of that recorded agreement with a whole host of other documents that the applicant's working through with the city. So we just want to make sure those deadlines are consistent. Nothing else very specific that needs to be pulled out of those conditions. But again, the SIP recommended with 11 conditions and the 1 change. And then the certified survey map is also recommended for approval with 9 conditions. And, I'm sorry. Yep, with 9 conditions. And then finally, the architectural design review is recommended for approval with 2 conditions.
All right. Then I am going to actually open the public hearing next. And I do have one comment that I think technically the public hearing is for the rezone request, and this is for the certified survey map, which is really I asked Andy Bowman, I guess, the question about, hey, if we make it Bowman Drive and when it crosses the street, is that cool with you. It was obviously on your family's property. It's going to go through that area, and just want to check in with him. And so he responded with this. Thanks for the call Friday to briefly discuss the proposed Bowman Drive name for the new extension of Roadway east of Fish Hatchery Road. When I first started to talk with the juice plant developers, Ned and Mike, the subject of naming the new road at the intersection that would head east and turn north to intersect with Post Road came up in discussion. Following time to think about it, the name Bowman Road would be very appropriate in our opinion. Most of the road travels through the Bowman properties, a little through the Scholastic property. However, the famous milking parlor sits on the northeast corner of the new intersection. While I was not around to see or enjoy the operation of the milking parlor, I do hear stories from many people I crossed paths with today. I'm sure there will be a few in the Planning Commission audience Tuesday evening that went there and watched the cows get milked and enjoyed an ice cream cone following the tour. I did save, however can't locate at the moment, newspaper clippings I came across following the passing of my grandmother, Olympia Bowman, in 1998. She preserved articles of my grandfather standing in front of the milking parlor with individuals he hosted on tours. A few that will not leave my memory from a wow factor were dignitaries from the USSR and China, though not during the same visit. The milking parlor was state-of-the-art back in the day. It used technologies that were being developed and not available to the farming public for a few years after starting the development process. Some of these technologies are still used today in the milking world. Back then, this not only put Fitchburg on the national radar, but the international too. It's not only the business that my grandfather brought to Fitchburg, but a civic mind too. Many children spent their Easter Sundays at the farm and the Bowman Easter egg hunt. This drew year after year hundreds of families from the area, not only watching their children run looking for eggs, but being able to watch their child gleam in excitement from finding the golden egg that won them a pony. Not just a ride on the ponies that were out there, but won an actual pony. Can you imagine a family bringing a pony into Seminole Hills today following their Easter egg hunt? Beyond Easter egg hunts, my grandfather loved baseball and was involved with promoting and sponsoring many teams through Bowman Dairy. This led to the city of Madison naming the Dwayne Bowman Senior Fields along Fish Hatchery Road next to the Wright Middle School. Our family would be honored to see this road named Bowman Road and continue to be a part of Fitchburg and continue to be a part of the growing city of Fitchburg. Thank you, and I'm sorry I will not be able to be present Tuesday evening for the Planning Commission to read this in person and be available for questions if there are any. However, I will be at my son's basketball game in Janesville. Go Regents. All right. That is all I have for public hearing, unless there's something else in the public I'm not aware of. All right, so I will close the public hearing then and open it up for any discussions or questions people might have up here. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think we talked about this a little bit last time, but I was hoping that there would be an entrance to the property onto Fish Hatchery Road so that the building would better address Fish Hatchery Road and allow pedestrian access directly onto the sidewalk on Fish Hatchery Road. But I don't see it.
Yeah, there is none. That's why I don't see it. But we do have a pretty good presence on Fish Hatchery Road, albeit no direct access into the residential portion of the building. The north retail portion and the south commercial portion have the ability to have those, depending on the tenants that we have and how they want to lay out their spaces. But that would not be, 100% sure thing.
But the residents of the building, I mean, they don't have any way of just walking right out onto Fish Hatchery and walking up to Fitchburg Ridge or whatever they might want to do. They got to go around.
Correct. They would have to come out the front door, or there's an egress stair on the south side of the building where they would go out and then go out to Fish Hatchery Road.
I think that would have been a plus. I think it still would be. I mean, something that I'd like to see incorporated in it. I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but.
The original design exercise that we went through with the city and a number of the staff focused on trying to have kind of presence for the building along the road and at the corner. And the trade-off to that was that most of the parking and other means of access to the building were set back from it. In theory, one of the stairwells potentially could have been adjusted, but when we looked at it from a fire safety and where the appropriate sort of exits were, we picked locations that seemed to fit for those reasons rather than from an appearance or sort of amenity perspective. And then to go back and redesign the building around having a stairwell or an exit onto Fish Hatchery at a later date would have blown the timeline for the building, given the number of ramifications of that from a design and a structural sort of perspective. In considering the access, we were asked at another hearing event about sort of bus access and things like that. The buses tend to be kind of at the intersection. And so where we have the main entrance to the building, just to the east of that commercial, just around that presence, it is a little bit of a walk, but it's reasonably close to the corner, which tends to be the spot at which people would have access to the buses or to cross the fish hatchery or to get to the shopping across the street. So without explicitly sort of achieving what you asked, which I think would have been very difficult for us to do within the constraints, we do think there is reasonable access to the places that people would be kind of most kind of looking to go from a public access perspective.
Okay, thanks.
Further questions? Tom?
Who signed your letter? Who signed that letter?
That was Andy Bowman.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. I wasn't make that clear, but the letter was from Andy Bowman, whose family has been there for a long time, owns a lot of property in that area.
Good.
Other questions? I mean, there's a few different pieces here. There's the rezone request, which is essentially the SIP, and then there's the dividing the land, and then there's the design review. Yeah, Tom?
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Can you put up the other picture with the storefront on there? Question, you just had it up there. It was the full picture with I call it the storefront. There you go, right there. Perfect. I'm probably a little ahead of you right now, but it's coming to mind. Where the apartments, and then you have the apartments, and on the corner there. Tell me again, and tell the public again, people watching, especially when they're seeing this coming down. What's on that corner? What's going to be inside there? Restaurant or what? Give me an idea of what's going on there.
It's been designed so it could have multiple uses. Ideally, I would love to see a prominent sort of restaurant there that's actually a destination. Since my office is going to be there, I would be delighted to be able to walk up from my office to have dinner in a nice sort of restaurant. And I think sort of Fitchburg deserves a couple of really nice restaurants in addition to the ones it already has. But it's also been designed so that, if we have multiple sort of tenants, that could be sort of a split to sort of two spaces potentially instead of just a single one. So it could serve a number of retail businesses that want exposure to the public, but my personal preference would be to have a restaurant.
I'm really not here tonight to give a history lesson. I really am not. But I can't let this go. I know you guys are taking the building down, the old building. You're taking down a lot of Fitchburg history. There's no question about it. Let me help you out a little bit. Keep in mind when we built the Black Hawk Church over here, they took some of the stone from the old farm and put it in the church. They piled it in a pile, and then when the church was built, they took some of that stone and put it in. What's going on here is I made some comments at a meeting. I can't remember. I made some comments about the dairy, and my phone at home started to ring, and a couple of people in their 90s called me. I forget that age, but called me and said, Tom, that used to be the dairy where we used to go get our chocolate milk, and there was a rodeo, and okay, anyhow, let's go fast forward. You're talking to Bowman's, and the grandpa's Leo. Then we go to Dwayne, And then we go to the son who you're working with. I knew all of them. Leo was part owner, and I don't know if he still is. I'd have to look at a program of the Milwaukee Brewers. He was real big into baseball, big time. Now you see how the field on Fish Hatchery Road got its name, Bowman Field. I don't know what's left in that building, but is there anything between, you can talk to Andy about a dairy or, no, and I'm not talking about a carton of chocolate milk, but there's got to be something in the history that you're about to take down. And I don't have an answer. I wish there's some people that come to my mind that have passed away that live in Fitchburg that could give me more history. But I know you're in the process of taking it down. We should have had this conversation before now. But I'm thinking Andy is he's a grandson of the I'm talking 3 generations here. And I go back, I shouldn't even say this, should I? Fish Hatchery Road was 2-lane road. That was a 2-lane highway. That's it. And it was a big deal when we got 4 lanes, and it was an even bigger deal when we had a coffee shop. That was a big deal for Fitchburg. So I just encourage you with this conversation to sit down with Bowman, and if there's anything in there you could use, get it before it goes in the dumpster. I made a comment to you guys, or somebody, could not have been you, about a dairy, and you guys, somebody looked at me and said, "What are you talking about? There's no dairy. There's no dairy down there." Yeah, there is. That was a dairy. And then it went to Robin Yacht, am I thinking right? A juice factory. Am I thinking right? We're still into baseball, aren't we?
Yeah, Tom, I do appreciate your giving us the background sort of on it. I think it's something that some of us who are newer to the area are, well placed to sort of learn from you and some of the others who've been here longer to value some of that history. I don't know what's salvageable or not. To be honest, I haven't asked that question. I'd been through the juice plant before we knocked it down. And my kind of impressions from having done so was that the prior kind of owners after the Bowmans had really made it very kind of industrial, very kind of clinical site, and that it had been, I think, liquidated so that anything of value had been kind of stripped without a view to kind of preserving the surroundings to it. But it may not be too late to sort of reach out and talk to the contractor and see whether there's, some fragment or something which is sort of worth saving, and I will make that kind of effort. I do think that,
Food for thought.
Given my kind of interactions with Andy and his comments, that I think he values the kind of the milking parlor to the north and probably sees more historical value in that at this point, given that the juice plant portion of the dairy has been through several different iterations of kind of an industrial life, and I don't think it retains the character, but there could be bits that are there underneath the facade of the kind of more industrial, but I'm happy to have a look.
Forget the baseball. Forget that. That wasn't supposed to be a joke. Because of the corner you're on, because of the senior center across the street, because of the traffic on Fish Hatchery Road, did anyone talk about a bridge over that coming on the other side of the road? A walking bridge, or, I know, I'm really throwing a ring.
Over Fish Hatchery?
Yep, going over.
I know they're making some big improvements to that intersection, so hopefully it will be safer for pedestrians to cross right there. As we redo Fish Hatchery Road, I know that's an intersection that they're looking to improve and make a lot safer for people.
I know I pulled that out of my back pocket, but, keep it in mind, you're talking about lots of traffic. 10 years from now, I won't be sitting here. No doubt in my mind. But think about it. Walking bridge over Fish Hatchery. all your apartment people are gonna, I'm sure, go the other side of the road too. And, I know, I'm pulling out of, I'm pulling out of my back pocket, but, food for thought, you know. Do you know something I don't?
That's probably just would add more to the cost of Fish Hatchery Road
Oh,
construction.
no.
So, sorry.
That is getting, isn't Traceway supposed to be, is that lighted or just a dedicated?
It will be lighted. Yeah, there'll be a
It's an actual
stoplight, I
intersection
believe.
there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So-
I believe it's a stoplight that's gonna be going in that intersection.
Yeah, there's a stoplight
So,
in there, but,
It'll make it
you know,
safer.
I know, I'm
Yeah.
thinking outside the box, but, I'm part of the I'm part of that bike bridge that goes over Fish Hatchery Road. And a lot of people thought that'd never get done,
Yeah.
never get done. Won't happen
I think they're adding another bridge at that
Yeah.
intersection, actually.
at PD and Fish Hatchery. And it got done. Food for thought, that's all, you know. I didn't have any drinks tonight either, so I don't want you to think
Other comments on really any of these pieces here, thoughts? I know I told staff earlier that there's actually probably a few people up here that will always think of it as the dairy and not the juice plant. More thoughts, questions, concerns?
I guess I'll just go on the record of saying when it was first proposed to rename the street, I thought, well, does that make a lot of sense? But to Sonia's point of actually going, you know, running as a corridor east and west, Traceway also, you have to think to the west, it actually turns back north again. So if we weren't to rename this part to the east of Fish Hatch, you would have a road that almost makes at least a C shape. So I just, as we're sitting here talking about it, I thought, at least to point that out, that I think that makes a lot of sense actually to rename it, not to leave it the same way, whatever it gets renamed, so. And a nice little nod to the family history there.
I had one question on the white panels with the 3 different shades to them.
Sure.
Are those in like rows or columns, or is it just kind of mixed up into who knows what pattern? Or maybe it's not, maybe it's a pattern, not a pattern at all, maybe.
Yeah, it would not be a pattern, but I don't know if you can see it on the renderings, but it's more of a horizontal,
Okay.
not a vertical lay,
Okay.
but a horizontal lay, and we would work with the installers to do a pattern, much like when they do blended brick, we'll give them a percentage of this and then have them lay it out.
The contractor has requested very specific paint-by-numbers instructions.
All right. Other pieces that you want to ask about at all?
Yeah, I just now noticed the sign for the actual signage of like 3101 apartments. So I'm disoriented on this view. Is that actually on the Fish Hatch side then?
Yes. yep.
Okay. Maybe that's why I've always been looking at the one that's on Fish Hatch, but,
Yeah, that's looking north of
because
Fish
that's the
Hatchery.
lower, okay.
So I think if you go to a perspective, you might be able to see that a little better.
And the reason I'm kind of picking that one out is because we just approved that one for the senior housing across the way and how, the size of it, and so I was just curious if we have any stats on, does this fit in with a normal sizing, or is it also larger like the senior one?
The conditions of approval right now just defer and require that they comply with Chapter 26 or normal sign code. So if there is a request to exceed what's normally allowed, it will play out likely the same as it did with Traceway, where they'll come here before the Plan Commission for an adjustment.
Other questions on the SIP, the certified survey map, or the ADR? There's a lot of different pieces here at once. Yeah, Steven?
Was it the certified survey is where you said there's 11 exceptions by staff? Okay, because I've got 9 on this one, but okay.
Yep, so on the SIP, there are 11, and the suggested change was to number 5.
Yeah.
Okay,
They're in the draft ordinance.
I can bring it up.
If we can just, yeah, make sure, I would just like to be able to know what those 11 are since we
Yep,
only see
I'll
9.
bring it up and we can go through it. So for the proposed SIP conditions, number 1 is standard. No, that's not on the screen, sorry. There we go. Number 2, the council needs to approve the certified survey map as well as the SIP rezoning. So this is conditioned upon their approval. It lays out the building metrics, the zoning created specifically for this parcel of up to 160 residential units and approximately 10,000 square feet of commercial space. And then it also identifies the parking that they're proposing as one of the zoning metrics. Number 4 is our standard erosion control and stormwater management permit. Number 5 is the recorded stormwater maintenance agreement, which requires that they maintain any private stormwater facilities on site. And this is where I suggested the change just in the second portion of the sentence. Rather than prior to issuance of building permits, it's within 30 days of city signing of the CSM. And then, I'm sorry, that was on this one, number 5. These are, number 6 and 7 are standard. The sewage district fees shall be paid prior to issuance of any building permits. Water impact fees shall be paid prior to issuance of building permits. The development will need to pay a fee in lieu of parkland dedication per unit, as well as park improvement fees per unit prior to issuance of building permits. This was a Public Works comment, number 9. The plan shows a right-in, right-out access from the western entrance on Traceway into the site. So that's the first section of the new Bowman Drive as it enters the site. The first access point there is right in, right out. And then Public Works noted, if hazards develop from drivers turning left out of this access, measures shall be taken to further restrict this driveway to make it more of just specifically right in, right out only. Number 10, we just went through, if signage may be proposed more specifically in the SIP, and if it's not, they defer to Chapter 26. And then number 11 was the lengthy condition that I mentioned regarding CARPC approval. So the development will need to submit a detailed stormwater management plan both to the city as well as to Capital Area Regional Planning Commission and Dane County Land and Water Conservation staff for review and approval. And it needs to meet the conditions noted here, including 80% sediment control, et cetera, et cetera. The environmental corridor stream buffer shall be established in dense grassy native vegetation maintained at a height of at least 6 inches. So that's along the south parking lot next to the wetland. Applicant confirmed that that condition is being met. They should also work with the eastern property owner over time to establish an appropriate access. Right now, there's a gravel access drive there, so it's envisioned that that would go away over time and be restored along the wetland. And then finally, where there are stormwater facilities, those will be within mapped environmental corridors.
All right.
Do we need to take these one by one?
Yeah. The rezone request would be first.
I move to approve RZ 2336-20. And I don't think there's no,
And so that's this one, right? The 11 conditions.
I thought that was on the CSM. Oh. Okay, with the 11 conditions noted by staff.
And with the amendment to number 5 as well. Condition 5, that was the within the 30 days of, they wanted to change that to
Oh.
within 30 days.
Boy, I should have let someone else go on this one.
You're
Yes.
90%
All of those
there.
things. Can I just pull a time to see, yeah, all that, what you just said?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Rich. All right. And
I was leaving the CSM for you guys.
they just left it out for you. Any questions on what was just proposed? Steven, do you have questions on what you just proposed? Okay. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? All right. Who would like to take on the SIP? Or, I'm sorry, the
ADR.
survey request, CSM, or CSR.
Move approval of CS 2337-20 with the 8 conditions as noted.
And a modification to number 4 regarding the timing.
Okay, the same modification
Yep.
as, okay, yep.
I see 9, what one do we remove?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
Is it 9?
There are
Okay.
9, yes, thank you.
All right, is there a
Second that.
All right. Any further questions on that one? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? All right, that one's approved. What about the ADR? Do we,
We have 2 conditions, right? I'll move approval of the ADR with the 2 conditions from staff.
Second?
all right, smart, go on the last one without hardly any conditions that need to be changed. I like it. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? All right, that is approved as well. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving along to K, Resolution R2320. I don't have anything up here. I don't think anyone is here for this. Sonia, do you want to speak to this piece?
Within the last couple of months, we approved a plat, the 6th edition to 9 Springs. I don't have a photo up on the screen right at this moment. This was along Lacey Road in the Smart Code area, uptown, where Avante is developing multifamily properties. So that 6th edition to 9 Springs simply reconfigured lots, and one of the things that they needed to do was move an outlot that was dedicated to the public for passage purposes. Since it was dedicated to the public, we needed to go through a more lengthy process in order to get that vacated. So this would be the resolution to accomplish vacating the public dedication, and then it would allow that outlet to be moved over whatever it was, 60 feet or 90 feet. So it's just a lengthy process to remove the dedication to just reconfigure something.
All right, so it's all there, just
Yeah, yep.
moving a little bit. All right,
Now I have the image up.
I'll move approval of R 2320.
Second.
all right. Any final questions at all? All right, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? All right, that is approved. What about L?
L is related to the one we just approved. The Plan Commission, per statute, needs to be involved in decisions regarding public easements. So this easement referenced in item L was associated with the outlet we just talked about. So this would just be vacating or releasing the water main easement in that location.
Questions at all?
Move approval of R 3120.
Second.
Second by Zach. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? All right, that is approved. Report from departments.
Our next meeting is March 17th. Meanwhile, the planned public hearing on the comprehensive plan and potential adoption by the council is scheduled for the week prior on March 10th. So we'll share any updated information as we get it. And we are still in the public comment period. For the record, anyone from the public may submit comments on the draft comprehensive plan. 2 planning staff directions for that are on the planning department webpage. The draft plan is posted there, as well as some suggested amendments from some of our elected officials. And paper copies were distributed at various locations throughout the city as well, and those are listed on the website.
Any questions for staff?
The next meeting is on St. Patrick's Day,
It is.
so Mr. Clouder, I'm sure, doesn't care. But for Aaron and I, we would prefer a light agenda,
Sure,
so.
I think it will be.
Second that.
Yeah.
Or a really fun one, and we can put one before the other. We don't need to go in a certain order here, you know?
I think we only have 3 applications, so it will be light.
Let's keep it that way.
I think in my toe, there's a little bit of Irish, but I'm
All right, is there a motion to adjourn? Assuming there's no
So moved.
announcements.
Move to adjourn.
Moves it.
second.
Second. All right, all in favor of adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, we are adjourned. You still got a few minutes to get in line to vote.